A woman goes viral saying she needs a man making half a million a year because her maintenance is 20,000 a month. Another clip says splitting the bill is financial abuse. Someone else is selling a course on how to get men to pay your rent without dating you. And the comments are split in the same predictable way. Half the internet laughs, half the internet cheers, and most men watch it and think, so this is what I'm up against. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. It's not that every woman thinks like this. It's that enough of this mindset is loud, celebrated, and repeated that it's starting to rewrite the culture. When the most extreme expectations get rewarded with attention, the extremes become normal. And that's why even stable, successful men are quietly stepping back and saying, I'm not playing this game. Not because they hate women, not because they're scared of commitment, but because they're doing something men rarely get credit for: a cold, adult cost benefit analysis. They're asking a question that cuts through all the romance talk and all the social pressure. What does this actually cost me? And what do I actually get in return? Because for a growing number of men, modern dating doesn't feel like partnership. It feels like auditioning for a sponsorship. It feels like being evaluated as a resource, not chosen as a man. And when men sense they're being assessed like a bank account with a heartbeat, they don't lean in, they withdraw. So let's talk about what's really happening. We're watching a shift from relationship building to extraction thinking. Extraction thinking is when dating stops being about compatibility, values, and shared effort, and becomes about maximizing what you can get while minimizing what you give. It's when someone treats romance like a strategy, not a bond. It's when the goal isn't connection, it's leverage. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can hear it in the language. I know my worth. That phrase can be healthy. It can mean standards, self respect, and boundaries. But in the wrong hands, it becomes a cover for entitlement. It becomes, I deserve premium benefits for basic participation. You can see it in the demands, the salary minimums, the lifestyle expectations, the idea that a first date should feel like a luxury commercial, the belief that you should finance someone's entire aesthetic, schedule, comfort, and future before she's proven loyalty, character, or even consistency. You can see it in the way some people treat men who hesitate. A man says, I'm not comfortable paying for everything right away. And he's labeled cheap, insecure, intimidated, not masculine, not a provider. He's shamed for having financial boundaries, as if boundaries are a defect. But here's the truth men need to understand. When a person gets angry at your boundaries, it's not because your boundaries are wrong. It's because your boundaries interfere with what they wanted to take. And that brings us to the bigger picture. Why so many men are choosing to stay single? Because for a lot of men, being single isn't loneliness anymore. It's relief. It's waking up without pressure. It's moving through the day without feeling evaluated. It's building without being drained. It's peace. And peace is addictive once you've lived without it. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: marriage. A lot of men aren't avoiding love. They're avoiding legal entanglement. They watch too many men around them treat marriage like a safe, sacred contract, only to find out it can turn into a high-risk financial agreement when things go wrong. And before anyone twists that into bitterness, understand this: caution is not hatred. Risk awareness is not misogyny. Men are allowed to protect what they build. If you've spent 10 years grinding, saving, investing, buying property, building a business, building stability, it is not insecure to think carefully about legal agreements that could affect everything you've earned. That's adulthood. What's changing is that men are no longer willing to pretend the risks don't exist just to look romantic. So you're seeing more men choose commitment without contracts, relationships without the state involved, cohabitation without signing away leverage, ceremonies without legal documents, because they've seen enough outcomes to decide they want love, but not the system that can punish them for choosing it. And again, this is not about attacking women. Plenty of women get hurt too. Plenty of women lose time and love and security in bad relationships. But the modern conversation keeps demanding that men show up like it's 1950, total financial responsibility, while also insisting men accept 2005 realities, individualism, independence, options, and exit culture. Men are waking up to a contradiction. They're told to be traditional providers without being allowed traditional authority, respect, or loyalty. Responsibility stays on the man, while rights and appreciation become optional. That's not partnership. That's imbalance. Now layer on top of that what social media has done to expectations. Social media doesn't show normal life. It shows highlights, luxury, curated relationships, filtered bodies, staged affection, and edited narratives. It sells fantasy and calls it standards. It sells rare outcomes and calls them normal. It sells the top fraction of men and women and convinces average people they deserve that lifestyle as a baseline. And it doesn't just distort women's expectations. It distorts men's expectations too. But here's the difference. When men have unrealistic expectations, the world usually corrects them quickly. Men get rejected and learn. Men get humbled. Men adapt. When women have unrealistic expectations, social media often rewards it. It turns it into content. It turns it into a movement. It creates echo chambers where thousands of people clap for ideas that don't survive contact with reality. That's how you end up with people saying splitting the bill is abuse with a straight face. That's how you end up with my maintenance is $20,000 a month, becoming a personality brand. That's how you end up with dating advice that sounds less like romance and more like a heist. And the men watching aren't thinking all women are like this. They're thinking this is becoming acceptable. This is becoming loud. This is becoming common enough that I'm going to run into it. And they're not wrong. There is a growing culture of transactional dating where some women openly admit they go on dates for free meals. They treat men like a weekly schedule. One for dinner, one for shopping, one for rent help, one for trips. They call it securing the bag. They call it leveling up. They frame manipulation as empowerment because it sounds better than admitting what it really is, using people. And here's what men need to understand. If someone is comfortable using strangers for resources, they will be comfortable using you too. It's not going to become moral because you fell in love. A lot of men are learning that the hard way. They're learning that being generous is not the same as being respected. They're learning that paying doesn't guarantee appreciation. They're learning that funding someone's lifestyle doesn't create loyalty. It creates entitlement. And once entitlement is established, it doesn't shrink, it expands. Because entitlement is a bottomless appetite. You don't satisfy entitlement, you feed it. Now, one of the biggest problems men face today isn't just cost, it's the constant escalation of what is considered minimum. First date used to be coffee. Now it's dinner at a place you can't pronounce with a price tag that can pay a month of groceries. Gifts used to be thoughtful. Now they're expected, frequent, expensive, and public, because if it's not posted, it doesn't count. Travel used to be occasional. Now it's, if you can't take me out of the country, you're not serious. And the reason these expectations balloon is because they're connected to social status. Dating is no longer just dating. For some people, it's a public performance. You're not just her boyfriend, you're her brand asset. Your job is to help her look like she's winning. And if you're dating a woman who needs the relationship to impress her audience, you're going to suffer. Because an audience never stops wanting content. Now let's get even more direct. A lot of men feel like they're competing with three things at once. They're competing with other men, obviously, but they're also competing with her friends' opinions. And they're competing with her fantasies, romance movies, curated Instagram couples, influencer lifestyles, luxury travel clips, and the idea that love should feel like constant fireworks and expensive surprise moments. Reality cannot beat fantasy. Not because reality is worse, because fantasy has no limits. Fantasy doesn't have bills, stress, bad days, sick parents, low energy, or responsibilities. Fantasy doesn't require compromise or accountability. Fantasy is pure consumption. So when a woman's expectations are shaped by fantasy, a normal man can never win. You can be good, consistent, masculine, stable, and loving, and still be labeled not enough because you're being measured against a highlight reel. And the man who keeps trying to win that contest becomes a shell. He becomes a performer, a provider with no peace, a man constantly on trial. And here's another uncomfortable truth. Some women don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're asking for standards. But standards without self-awareness become entitlement. Standards without reciprocity become exploitation. A standard is, I want a man who is disciplined, stable, and intentional. Entitlement is, I want a man to finance my lifestyle while I offer attitude and demands. A standard is mutual. It applies to both sides. Entitlement is one way. It's a list of requirements for you and exemptions for her. That's why men are walking away. Not from women, from one-way deals. Now let's talk about the modern accountability collapse. A healthy adult can look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm part of the problem. But in today's dating culture, that's almost treated like weakness. Everyone wants to be the victim. Everyone wants the sympathy. Everyone wants to control the narrative. So when relationships fail, it's never, I made poor choices. It's, men are intimidated. When someone is single at 40, it's never, my patterns pushed good men away. It's, there are no good men left. When someone has chaos behind them, it's never, I tolerated low standards. It's, I was unlucky. And when accountability disappears, the same mistakes repeat forever, just with different faces. Men see this. Men notice when someone demands a high-value partner but has no high-value habits, no discipline, no emotional stability, no financial responsibility, no humility, no gratitude, no ability to build, just demands, just I deserve, just pay. And men are finally responding with a simple phrase that ends the conversation. I'm good. Not angry, not bitter, just done. Now let me address a point that matters. This isn't only a female problem. There are men who manipulate. There are men who use. There are men who lie, cheat, waste women's time, and offer nothing. The dating market is full of low integrity behavior on both sides. But the reason men are withdrawing right now is because the cost of being wrong is high. Emotionally, financially, legally. And men are realizing that modern culture is not built to reward the man who tries to do things the right way. It often rewards the loudest demands, the quickest exits, and the most strategic manipulation. So men are adapting. They're taking their energy back. They're choosing hobbies over chaos. They're choosing brotherhood over drama. They're choosing fitness, money, and peace over trying to impress someone who is never satisfied. And the funniest part is, many of them are happier, not because they hate love, but because they're no longer being drained by someone else's constant expectations. Now let's talk about what single actually means for the modern man who is doing it right. It doesn't mean isolation, it means sovereignty. It means you own your schedule, you own your money, you own your attention, you decide where your energy goes. And if you do it correctly, being single becomes a platform for building. You build your body without being distracted. You build your career without emotional chaos. You build your finances without funding someone else's lifestyle. You build your mind without constant conflict. You build your social life intentionally. And from that place, you become a man who is no longer desperate for companionship. You can choose companionship if it's healthy, but you don't need it to feel whole. That is the real power. Wanting love, but not needing it. Because the man who needs love will accept disrespect. The man who wants love will require standards. Now let's get extremely practical. Because the point of this video isn't just to rant, it's to give men clarity. If you're a man navigating modern dating, you need to learn how to screen. You need to learn how to protect your time, money, and mental health without becoming cynical. Here's how. First, watch how she talks about men. If every ex is a villain and she has no responsibility in any story, you're not meeting a woman, you're meeting a pattern. Second, watch her relationship with work and responsibility. A woman doesn't have to be rich, but she should respect effort. She should have some sense of building, direction, contribution. If her plan is find a man to pay for everything, that's not romance. That's a business model. Third, watch how she responds to boundaries. A healthy woman respects a calm boundary. An exploitative woman punishes you for it. Fourth, watch for reciprocity. Does she give energy back? Does she plan sometimes? Does she contribute? Does she show appreciation? Does she make your life easier or only more expensive? Fifth, watch for consistency. Is she stable or is she addicted to emotional spikes? Does she create problems to feel something? If she needs drama to feel alive, she will manufacture it in your life. Sixth, watch for humility. The most dangerous person to date is the person who believes they are entitled to everything and accountable for nothing. Now, if you apply these filters, you'll avoid most of the chaos, and you'll stop blaming dating culture as a whole because you'll be able to separate good women from bad patterns quickly. Because yes, good women exist, women who value partnership, women who appreciate effort, women who build, women who are loyal, calm, and emotionally mature, women who don't see men as ATMs, but you will not find them if you keep rewarding the loud entitled ones. You will not find them if your standards are weak. You will not find them if you're desperate. Desperation is what makes men accept bad deals. And that's why the modern man's greatest skill is being comfortable alone, not as an escape, as a foundation. If you can sit in silence and feel stable, you will never be manipulated by threats of leaving. If you can enjoy your own life, you will never tolerate disrespect just to avoid being single. If you have purpose, you will never chase someone whose only power is attention. So when you see these viral clips, maintenance costs, bill splitting outrage, rent finesse courses, don't just get angry, get clear. Recognize what it represents, a loud segment of culture trying to normalize extraction, and decide what kind of man you're going to be in response. Are you going to be the man who overpays for attention? Or the man who builds his life so well that attention becomes optional? Because the future belongs to men who can do one thing most people can't: walk away without hate. Walk away without drama. Walk away without begging. Walk away with peace. That's what men are choosing when they choose single life in 2025. They're not saying love is bad. They're saying the current deal with the wrong person is bad. They're refusing to fund entitlement. They're refusing to be emotionally taxed. They're refusing to be shamed into one-way contracts. And if you're a man watching this, you don't need bitterness. You need standards. You need clarity. You need to protect your time like it matters, because it does. Now I want to hear from you. What's the most unreasonable expectation you've encountered in modern dating? Not as a complaint, but as a data point. What made you realize the deal wasn't balanced? And what boundaries changed your life? Drop it in the comments. Keep it honest and keep it respectful. Because the goal isn't gender war. The goal is better decisions. And if you want more content that helps you navigate modern dating with calm, self-respect, and real-world strategy, subscribe. We're building men who don't chase approval, don't get baited into chaos, and don't sacrifice their future for someone else's fantasy. Peace is not weakness. Peace is power. And in this era, the man who protects his peace will always win.